So yes, good luck to both of the runners. If you've been following this tournament at all, you'll know that anything can happen at any point during the run. And nothing is really over until it's over. So Luigi is going straight into the tutorial, going to pick up the single coin here, and will likely be trying to exit out early. Looks like he got it just off of that. Exiting the tutorial early just lets us get to an early map. We don't have to go back to the kettle house and then load the map. Meanwhile, Cutie is not going for the tutorial coin, probably opting to go to the first run and gun instead. And that is exactly what she's doing. So Luigi, I'm assuming, will be going to grab spread. While I'm not sure off the top of my head what cutieroo is going to do, so we shall see. Likely going for one of the later weapons, maybe lobber, something like that. Otherwise, it's much faster to go to the tutorial and pick up the single coin. Really, the only reason you should go to the run and gun is if you need more than 5 points, or sorry, more than 4 points. Luigi already through the first phase of Root Pack. This is considered by pretty much everyone to be the easiest boss in the game. It's really nice because the bosses stay in place. They have very easy attacks to dodge, and their attack patterns are relatively straightforward. So there's not a lot of danger here. And so I don't expect either runner will have significant amounts of trouble with this. Yeah, cutieroo is going the half Jason route. Only doing one of the first 2 running guns. So she picks up spread and lobber, hence the need for the extra coin. So that will give her some degree of creativity with some of these bosses that Luigi won't have. We'll see if it pays off in the end. There are some bosses I think it's probably easier to use lobber on, but again, I don't know if that would be enough to make up for the extra time lost by doing the run and gun. So Luigi's on to Ribian Croaks. It's the second boss in this route. Getting a very nice first phase. We'll see, can he pull off the phase skip? And no, he does not. So it is possible, not insanely difficult to do on current patch, but it is possible to skip that entire phase completely if you do enough damage to the boss while in the first phase. That being said, Luigi did get a very nice second phase frogs, a very quick one cycle there, and is on to the third phase as cutieroo finishes up the Root Pack. So Luigi has to wait for the slot machine to start its attack before he can damage it, because it's invulnerable otherwise. Getting a little bit of bad luck there, getting 2 tiger attacks in a row. Generally, there are 3 attacks the slot machine can do. You can have the frog, which is just basic platforms that run along the ground. You have the devil, which shoots flames either upwards or downwards. And then you have the tiger, which you saw Luigi get twice with the bouncing balls. And that's generally considered, by and large, to be the hardest of the 3 to deal with. So Cutie on phase 2 of the frogs, not having as clean of a fight as Luigi did, but still going fairly well. getting at least a 2 cycle here in phase 2. While Luigi is moving on to the last phase of Goopy. Goopy, there isn't a lot to talk about here. It's a relatively simple fight, just basically dodge the jumps. You see Luigi there using the spread EX very effectively. The way it works is that the EX shoots in 8 directions. It's a radial attack, and in order to most efficiently do damage with it, you want all 8 bullets to hit. So that's why you saw Luigi jump into the face of the tombstone in order to get in the middle of that hitbox and do maximum damage. Cutie is getting the devil attack right now and gets a nice knockout, very clutch 1 HP knockout, but a knockout nonetheless. So she'll be moving on to Goopy as Luigi picks up the plane and goes into Hilda. Now, Hilda introduces the other, what I would say, main mechanic in Cuphead, being the plane levels. This is the only one in Aisle 1 that uses the plane. There are 2 fights in Aisle 2, and a couple throughout Aisle 3. So this is not the last time you will be seeing them. Right now, though, Luigi only has the machine gun for it. You'll see here doing a really interesting strat with the nice skip Luigi. Very well done. So what you saw Luigi do is intentionally damage boost through Hilda's phase change in order to line up the machine gun EX, which is that bullet you saw, such that it matches Hilda's movement across the screen. Doing so allows it to damage Hilda many times, and in this case you saw that he was able to do enough damage with it that cumulatively she skipped her entire second phase. I can't begin to tell you how insane that is. That was very nicely done by Luigi. It makes the fight rather difficult toward the end because you're stuck on 1 HP if you do both of those damage boosts. And Hilda's last phase can be a little dangerous if you aren't paying attention. Meanwhile, Cutie taking a death on Goopy, so that will help put Luigi a little bit ahead, or a bit further ahead than he already was, as he moves into the last boss of Aisle 1, Cagney Carnation. Not a lot to say here for Cagney, but I'd like to point out the music in the background is generally considered by me and many in the community to be one of the best songs in the game. So if you ever get a chance, listen to the full thing. It's incredible. All the soundtrack is really incredible. This one really stands out to me as being one of the best. Yeah, Luigi really doesn't need any more help. Like, it's gonna be a good match, regardless, but Luigi definitely knows what he's doing. Ooh, that double knockout! What the heck, that was insane. Cutieroo getting the knockout on Goopy at the same time Luigi gets the knockout on Cagney. So they are now 2 bosses apart. Luigi is a top runner, holding the current world record in this category with a loadless time of 32 minutes and 26 seconds. So definitely a force to be reckoned with in this tournament. There's also, even in many of the other categories, specifically the current patch stuff, he holds a lot of records, or at least until very recently held a lot of the records. I think he might also be, if he doesn't hold the record, he's like certainly in the top 3 or 4. And pretty much everything he's done to this point. So Luigi opting to go to Baroness first, getting a little bit of bad RNG in there, getting the Jawbreaker. It's a pretty easy fight overall, but the death animation, as you can see, is rather long, and when you're going for PB attempts and records, just any little bit of time wasted can really add up. So not something our runners generally want to see. Then getting the muffin, which may honestly be the worst one to get. Its attack pattern is pretty hard to hit with anything but like the pea shooter. It's just pretty slow overall as far as the pattern goes. And then getting a really good one being the gumball machine. Luigi getting the clutch kill on Baroness as well. We'll be moving on to presumably Jimmy now, which would be the next plane fight. Right now, Luigi does have the option of picking up bombs, which he may or may not do. He went to Baroness first, so I imagine he probably will. And yeah, he is. So what Luigi just did is pick up the second and final weapon for the plane, which are the bombs. These don't really have a lot of use in this category. It can be used very nicely on Wally Warbles a couple bosses from now if you get really bad movement RNG at the end of the fight, and maybe a few other places later on, but for the most part in current patch, not a lot of use. Although you do see Luigi very briefly shooting the faces of the genie a few times and then hitting it with a bomb. Getting a very nice quick third phase there, doing enough damage there with the nuke to progress on. Cutie moving past Coda. And yeah, Dr. Call is a very good use for the bombs as well. Thank you for pointing that out, SPD Wolf. But it's one of those things that, depending on who you play as, or who's playing, I should say, tends to be pretty decisive. Cutie is likely going to finish this fight, getting really nice up to this phase. She just needs to finish it out as Luigi takes on Jimmy and gets the knockout. Very nice fights from both horror runners. So Luigi now still maintaining a 2-boss lead. Luigi is not using the whetstone or anything like that. The only thing he has picked up is the spread shot. I missed what Luigi did with the hands, so I don't know. I would imagine he probably just was able to avoid the hitbox, but I wasn't paying super close attention to that. So if anyone in chat sees that and could offer an explanation, be my guest. Feel free. I would be welcome with. cutieroo going to Beppy first, so the same fight that Luigi is on. That being said, do not make any mistake about it. cutieroo is still behind since Luigi has already done Jimmy and Baroness. cutieroo starting to fight just as Luigi is getting to the last phase. Yeah, that is right. The hands actually don't have hitboxes, so that's not a problem. Luigi finishing off Beppy with a 112. Very nice fight. Beppy tends to be, for a lot of people, one of the first major choke points casually. The IO1 bosses are relatively simple, I would say, compared to the rest of the game. And Cutie taking a death there. Having to restart that fight. But the Isle bosses are relatively easy, I would say, compared to the rest of the game. Isle 2 tends to ramp up the difficulty quite a bit. And then Isle 3, I think, actually lowers the difficulty a little bit, in my opinion. Although the fights do tend to be longer. And there are more of them. So Luigi moving on to Wally Warble, the third plane fight in the game. The last one of Isle 2. Doing a very nice job moving on to the second phase, dodging all these feathers in the bullet hell. Very nice phase 2. Moving on to phase 3, you gotta watch out not only for the bird's moving shield, but also the parryable bullets that it shoots out. Cutie hanging in there with Beppy, doing very nicely, taking no damage thus far, although she does still have 2 phases to go after this, so anything can happen. Yeah, that's the interesting thing about this game, is that everyone has their own strengths and weakness. Cutie taking 2 damage there, it's going to be very dangerous the rest of the fight for her. And Luigi finishing up Wally. But it depends on who you ask. For some people, you know, Beppy's the hardest. For some, Grim, who Luigi is getting ready to go face now, is the hardest. It really just depends. I think in general, like Root Pack is, I would say, I don't think anyone has trouble with that. I mean, it's even been done blindfolded before. So that's certainly, I don't think anyone would have an issue calling that one easy. But as far as everything else, Cutie with the very costly death there, but... So, Luigi... yeah, Luigi was practicing Dragon earlier, so I imagine tends to have a little bit of trouble with Dragon. Werner, I think TC Plus points out, also tends to be a little bit of a choke point. Now, as far as speedrunners are concerned, Grim is typically seen as one of the first real blockades to the run. He's like one of the first real run killers. Luigi getting a very nice fight so far, not taking any damage until this last phase. He's got to be careful here. It just took 2 hits, and this fight can be really dangerous. As you can probably see, or have seen, the dragon will spit out fireballs, and if you hit those with your weapon, it'll split into 4 directions. And so, and that works even on the EXs. So you could fire off an EX, and you're not invulnerable while you use that. So he just fire a firebolt like straight into that thing, and you won't even see the incoming bullet until it's too late. But Luigi does pull out a clutch victory on Grim, and we'll be moving into World 3. We have seen quite a few deathless runs. Oh, come on, Cutie. Gotta get this. There you go. Very nice. Very tough fight for newcomers. Very tough fight for speedrunners. Very, very well done. Very, very nice getting through that. And Luigi getting past the first stage of Honey Bottom. I missed my oi oi oi, like I always do. I'll have to pick it up when Cutie gets there, but... Luigi hoping to do enough damage, probably not going to get it just based on her attack pattern, but hoping to do enough damage to skip her phase 3 entirely and get a nice quick kill. So, weapon glitch does not work on current patch. So I guess now would be a good time to talk about this. We see Luigi real quick not getting that phase skip, not getting that quick kill. Likely gonna end this fight very soon. And yeah, gets a nice phase 3, gets it before any of the attacks really start. So there's that. Yeah, so back in December they released a major patch. It's the only one really for the game so far that fixed a lot of issues. Things like the weapon swap glitch has been patched out. Off-screen hitboxes have been patched out, and a lot of the boss freezes and things we can do of that nature have been patched out as well. They did recently give us the option to officially revert back to the old patch on PC only, and so that's why we do separate between what we call the released and the current patches, which is what we're doing for this tournament. That being said, there are a few glitches still left in current patch. There's some clips and some still a few quick kills and things like, or quick kill isn't a glitch. A menu glitch is still active, and then the shop glitch is still active. So there isn't a lot of distinction between AB current patch and AB glitchless current patch, but there are a few little distinctions. So yeah, Cutie finishing up Jimmy, Luigi finishing up Dr. Call. Looks like Cutie is picking up the bombs as well, and is moving into Bonbon. And Luigi, on the other hand, is moving into one of the calmer bosses of Aisle 3, Sally's Stage. Yes, the speedrun page does have a lot of information on glitches. I think we did try and at least keep a list of what was in the game, what they did, some stuff. So yeah, if you want information about how to switch back to Legacy, anything about Cuphead speedrunning really, join the Discord, look at the speedrun.com page. I think anyone in the community will be more than happy to help out, I'm sure. Yeah, there is also, they did not add in the ability to start directly on Expert either, which I was very surprised about. So all the Expert runs we require to start from a fresh file, and so we actually have to trick the game into letting us do that. The details of that aren't important right now, but it kind of works the same way as the wrong word stuff does. You can basically well, not really. Or relies on loading a previous save after selecting a clean save, so you can kind of skip ahead to basically wherever you want. But yeah, so that does still exist as well, but that is banned across the board. Let's see, Luigi getting ready to go into Wonder Woman. Cutie gets a first try Bonbon. And that is very exciting. Bonbon sucks. So, the faster we can get out of first stage, the better. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. When we were deciding what to do with the patch, there were a lot of people who expressed interest in both, and so that's why we split it. Yeah, a lot of people have decided just to stick with Legacy. A lot of people have decided just to do current patch, and we still have some people who do both. I don't think that's as common anymore, but it does happen. And especially, like I said, on PC, you are free to switch back and forth at will, so it makes making that transition extremely painless. The tournament, maybe not in this form, will take place again. We've had a lot of interest in running and participating in this tournament, so I think it's going really well. We're having really nice turnouts, I think, with the restreams and everything. Like, everyone's in the community who's participating in some way or another has been exceptional in making this happen. So yeah, I certainly think more Cuphead tournaments, more Cuphead events aren't out of the question. It's just a matter of when and what we decide to do. So any information on that when we have it, we'll talk about it in the Discord and likely on SRC as well. So make sure if you want information on any future events and stuff like that, follow those two places. Yeah, that's a very nice point. The only downside of Cuphead speedrunning is you don't listen to the soundtrack for very long. Let's see. Again, man, I'm talking over Luigi's entire thing here. Luigi getting a very nice clean fight on Captain Brinybeard, down to 2 bosses left in aisle 3. Cutie, meanwhile, moving on to Grim. She'll, upon completion of this fight, be... Yeah, you can parry the giant laser. You gotta get the timing right, apparently. I've never done it, so I don't know timing and whatnot, but it is possible. And that's the thing, it is pink, so any pink attack is parryable. What I would like to see at some point is maybe do like a black and white or something like that. I mean, it would be a major pain in the butt to run, I think, but it might be quite interesting. Luigi getting what I would consider the worst Calamaria's attack patterns there. She has one of a few different attacks she can do, and often will do multiple at the same time. And I personally think that the pufferfish ghost combo tends to be the one. Luigi getting a really nice phase 2 on Calamaria. Likely going to be finishing up this fight very soon. Doing the dangerous yet, I guess, optimized strat of staying extremely close to her. And he does have the help that he can do that. Did take a few hits there. But yeah. Let's see, any percent, you skip the devil. So that is not actually required, and it's the only real difference between all bosses and any percent right now. Established meta for upgrades. So we've done a lot of research into how much damage each weapon does and that sort of thing, and we found that for this category, spread is the way to go. So just in terms of damage per second, etc., that's why you see a lot of the runners in the category will stick to spread. Although to some extent it does kind of come down to preference. Ooh, Luigi taking a death there. Man, that is... Yeah, at least, I have to say, at least it was the beginning of the... The thing with Cuphead is, if you die, there are no checkpoints during the bosses. If you die at the very end of the fight, then you have to redo the entire fight. Not as painful in the first few bosses because they're relatively short, but certainly in these later ones where you get the long fights, dying late is not what you want to do. Dying isn't what you want to do at all, by any means. But if you were to do it, doing it at the beginning of the fight like Luigi did would be the best. Back to the meta. Some people, like myself, tend to opt for Roundabout, and it's a little bit slower damage-wise, but it does give you a little bit more freedom to move around the screen. And yeah, and you don't have to stay up close to do very well with it. You can stay back a little bit. You can focus a little bit more on dodging. So I would say those two are the main ones. We saw Jason in his run yesterday actually opt to do 2 running guns and pick up, I believe it was Spread, Charge, and Lobber. And he did very well with that one. Actually that entire fight was decided by 1 minute and 6 seconds, like difference. It came down to a single death that Jason had in the devil fight. So that did really well for him. I don't think it would work as well for anyone else in particular, because most of us aren't used to running that. But Jason definitely knows how to make use of everything. Yeah, the game is pretty forgiving when it comes to deaths. The only thing you really lose is time. Like I mentioned, you just go back to the beginning of the fight that you're on. You don't lose any weapons or anything. Once you get a weapon, an upgrade of any sort, it's yours for the remainder of the entire game. So Luigi is moving on to my favorite boss, King Dice. This one is certainly, I think, the most unique within the game, where each of his phases kind of act like Baroness in a sense, where they're all little minions. But you have control over which ones you fight. And so you see Luigi is moving backward there by pairing a dice, and the number on the die shows how many spaces forward you move. Each boss, or each number, has its own boss associated with it. So you see Luigi, like most runners, will be going for 2, 4, 8, which would be the poker chips, domino, and the 8-ball. Very common one as well, instead of doing number 2, would be to do number 3, the cigar. And I don't see this one quite as often anymore, but a lot of people used to do 5 over 4 as well. Yeah, the mini-bosses are locked to the numbers, so you know precisely when you move which one you're going to get. Now, you notice that on some of these, like if Luigi manages to pull number 8 here, she does, you'll see he landed on a heart, and so that immediately gives him an extra damage, or an extra hit point. You can actually go above maximum on that. So in this route, you can get up to 6 health on this fight only. If you do have the double damage, or the double heart charm, and have a base health of 5, you can actually get up to 8, which is really cool. But you see there why we do number 8. It's just really fast. Pretty much stand... It's a lot like the carrot, actually. Just stand under him and fire. And the hearts along the backboard are random as well, so they won't be in the same place every time. So sometimes if you're really lucky, they will align perfectly with your route. But unless you're really hurting for health, not usually a good way to get them. Yeah, and Etop brings up a good point, that King Dice stage is very reminiscent of Gunstar Heroes, or so I've heard. I've never played it, so I can't vouch. I'm taking your word for it. So I've heard it from like a bunch of people. And if you actually look, the creators did a really good job with referencing different things in the game. So you have the Gunstar reference there. Ribby and Croaks, for instance, in Aisle 1 is straight up Street Fighter. It's Ken and Ryu, like even down to the animations. You know, you'll see up here in Sally's stage play, I think her second phase, she'll have some like wind-up cars. It looks a lot like, reminds me a lot of Plug-Man from Mega Man, just the way the car. So there's a lot of references to old, like, classic animators and animation. Luigi is going to be coming up here on the end of the game. He's in the last fight, facing off against the devil, moving into phase 2, getting a really nice phase 1, nice damage list. And just a matter of time now before Luigi finishes. Meanwhile, cutieroo, you can see, is on stage, near phase 2 of Sally's stage play. Trying to move on to stage 3, which she does pretty nicely. Yeah, the ball went through the hole on that, and I don't think I've ever seen that. But that is GG for Luigi, finishing with an SRL time of 35:53. Nice mirror there. As you might expect from Luigi. I don't know, Luigi, does anyone have a in-game or load this time? I'll ask him and see if he's got anything. But yeah, what an incredible time. I think that might be the fastest race we've seen thus far in the tournament. I really need to go back and record these things. Looks like cutieroo took a death, so it has to restart the fight. Luigi got a 32:53 in-game time with death. Which, granted, the death didn't seem to cost that much time. Just maybe 10-15 seconds at most. But that's like just about 30 seconds off of his world record. So that was an insanely close run. So again, GG Luigi. Yeah, you know, Luigi might... I'll find some way to disqualify Luigi. He's too good. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe have him do the entire thing again to do it deathless. Meanwhile, Cutie is still trying to finish up Sally. Getting a nice jump over the big wave. No, it's not a community requirement that the final split should be named Rip Devil. Yeah, there's a reason why Luigi is the #1 seed in the tournament. Doesn't say a lot because we do have some very, very nice talent in this race. We got TMR fight coming up finally sometime soon, after a few issues with scheduling and everything. Unfortunately, Luigi won't be available to do a post-game interview. As much as I would love to have him on after that godly run. It would be quite a treat to hear what he had to say about it. But we'll pick him up next time, hopefully. Yeah, the thing with TMR is that he doesn't do a lot of current patch. I think he much prefers to stick to Legacy. So it'll be interesting to see how he does on this, just based on that. Still going to be very much be a force to be reckoned with. But yeah, we'll see. But I mean, even aside from those two, we do have some really good talent in here as well. So, I mean, I would not be surprised if either of them gets knocked out. Oh, you just learned that strat yesterday, Luigi? Oh, Spike finished Battletoads. Nice. Yeah, TMR is the Mexican runner. So, again, very, very well known. Very well known speedrunner. It's an honor to have him in the tournament. It's an honor to have everyone in the tournament. I can't stress this enough that this tournament would not be happening without the loving support of our community and all the runners who are willing to take time out of their day to participate in it. So make sure to go give them a follow, give them some support. They definitely deserve it. Cutie taking a death on the final phase of Warner Werman. And having to redo that entire fight. So you can see that, having deaths at the end of the fight can be pretty costly, especially if you have more than one death. But still doing a very, very nice job overall. Was up against fierce competition, and the fact that she's sticking through it, and it just speaks a lot about her and everything. So let's see, Cutie onto the final stage of Warner again. Hopefully she can get past it this time. At this point, I would probably be focusing on staying alive. There isn't that threat anymore of potentially losing the fight, losing the race, because it's already been decided. And there we go, getting that knockout. With a 118. Yeah, so that's one of the things about racing versus trying to go for a record. With a record, you want to try and be risky. A lot of the nice strats tend to be riskier, tend to rely on having low health because you damage boost. And that's the kind of thing you need to do when going for a PB or anything like that. But for a race, the important thing is, in some sense, to make sure you finish. Yeah, it's important to go fast, but if you go too fast and die, then you're just hurting yourself in the... So if I were Cutie, I would probably be playing this a little bit safer than I would otherwise, but that's just me. So we see here Captain Brinybeard's fight. I didn't get to talk a lot about it during Luigi's segment, but this one tends to be a very busy fight. There's a lot going on the screen. So for one thing, you have Briny who can shoot at you. You have the barrel that drops on you every so often. He can also summon in some animal assistants, like he's doing now. You can be either the shark, which you just saw, you can be a squid, which shoots ink at you and can block your screen, much like the squid in Mario Kart. And then you get the dogfish, which is just bad luck. And lastly, you also, at a certain point, start getting the ship firing bullets at you. Or cannonballs, I should say, and so that can be very hard to see at times with everything else going on. But Cutie doing a very good job so far of trying to dodge all that. Unfortunately, did take a death there. I think in the grand scheme of things, Bryony doesn't usually give us too much trouble. I mean, it can be very dangerous. You see Cutie there opting to just go ahead and retry the fight instead of wasting time trying to do it on 1 health. That is a very viable strategy as well. You know, it's still technically time loss because you do have to redo the fight, but less of a time loss than you would be if you died later on. So let's see if she can pull this off this time. Getting a nice shark there. Want to avoid the dogfish as much as possible. And here we start seeing that 3rd cannonball attack come in. Now let's get some hype in the chat for Cutie. Get past this fight. I know she can do it. Moving on to phase 3 of Bryony with 3 health. In a much better position than she was a couple rounds ago. I think fight. And there she does. She does it. Cutieroo with that amazing finish. 133. Very well done. Gets the A+ rank. Not a requirement for this category, but it always feels good to know that you did that fight as best as you could, given the game's constraints. So Cutie moving on to Calamaria, the last, hopefully last, plane level in the game. There are a few bosses in King Dice that make use of the plane, but we don't really see those in AB Glitchless. Current patch, I mean. I think someone might still use the first plane fight in King Dice, but I don't think many of us do that. And the last plane fight in King Dice actually is completely useless to us in King Dice, because it's a long fight. It's really fun, I think. A very unique mechanic, but does take quite a long time to go compared to the other ones if you do it normally. There is a glitch in the Legacy version which allows you to get the monkey off screen, and because it's off screen, the game treats it as a death. So you can actually finish that fight in just mere seconds. But they did patch that out, so we want to avoid that at all costs. But unfortunately, due to the nature of the dice rolls, and if you're not very confident in your pairing ability, then it is still very much possible, or even if you just make a mistake, it is very much possible to accidentally go on a number you don't want to go. That was a very rough phase, or a very rough fight for Cutie. Getting to phase 3 with just 1 HP left. It's a very bad position to be in. It's arguably the most dangerous of her phases. I mean, depending on who you ask. The optimal thing to do there, as you saw Luigi do, was to try and hug her face as much as possible. This allows you to avoid her stone gaze, but it also means you are closer to her her skull bubble attack, and you're also closer to being hit by the rows of spikes in the cave, which you can dodge. You can see a little bit before it goes behind her head, but if you're not paying attention or if you get bad movement, it can be very difficult to see at times. The other thing you really have to watch out for in this fight, I think more so than any other fight in the game, is the environment. Both the top and bottom of this cave do have hitboxes, and if you touch them, you will take damage. So you really need to be careful to stay within those, within that middle path as much as possible. But Cutie does get a very nice, very clutch kill on Calamaria. So very, very nice fight getting past it. She'll be on to the Pain Train. So the Pain Train is also one of my favorite bosses. I think a lot of people would say the same, aside from the fact that it tends to kill a lot of runs. And I think the nice thing about this is that each fight, each phase feels unique. It's not a continuation of the previous phase or anything like that. Each fight, or each phase, I should say, has its own attacks and just has a unique way of fighting it compared to the other phases. Plus, I just like the idea. I mean, it's a ghost train. Come on. Yeah, Cutie did put up a very good fight, and still is. But Luigi did just completely wreck this game, as we would expect from the current world record holder. Wound up being about 30 seconds off of world record. So, fastest time of the tournament so far. Just fantastic run by Luigi. Not to downplay Cutie's run in any way, shape, or form. Like, she is doing a very good job as well, up against a very tough opponent. I do not envy her position at all. Then just the fact that she was able to, get this far while having to face Luigi is, I can't even imagine. I would be terrified. There is a VOD for all of the previous races, and there will be one for all of the future races. So if you missed anything during the tournament, certainly you can go check the VODs and see what you missed. I would highly recommend checking out the double race we had yesterday. Some very, very tight race. Probably the closest race we've had thus far happened yesterday. Very clutch. Very, very well done by all the runners. But yeah, any of these races you should be able to watch after the fact. We also do have a few races coming up this week. Let me pull up the schedule. We have tomorrow at 3:30. We have Jason versus Movellandrone. That's going to be a really fun race to watch. Movellandrone being a newer runner for Cuphead, is at a bit of a disadvantage playing on Xbox, but put up a very good fight against Cutie in the first round of this tournament. Meanwhile, he's facing off against Jason, who was one of the two participants in the insanely close godlike race we had yesterday. So Jason, despite being in the loser's bracket, I think is going to go very far Has a lot of potential to make that comeback into the winner's bracket. On Wednesday at noon, we have Irving versus Justin. Thursday at 2 Central, so 3 p.m., we have Potato versus Lindis's. And then Friday at, I guess, 11:30 a.m., we have Mr. Dino versus Calico. So a good mix of winner's bracket, secondary bracket matches this week. We do have, at least, it's pretty nice to have a race a day, which is really awesome. Cutie taking yet another death to Phantom Express. So again, at this point, already a few deaths into this fight. The key here is, at this point, especially since your opponent's already finished, not to rush it. At this point, finishing is the important thing. Yeah, there is a major patch, actually the only, what I would consider major patch to the game, at the beginning of December that they patched out. It was really funny, regarding the weapon swap glitch. There is an article or an interview or something the developers did with Kotaku, I believe, in which they talked about the future of Cuphead, what we could expect as far as potential extra content or stuff like that. And actually, I'll see if I can find the quote, because I just love it. But they were talking about the patch and specifically weapon swap. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to find that. Is it this one? It was something along of, they knew that weapon swap glitch was in the game when they shipped it, and they weren't. It was one of those things, like, it was very close to release date. Found it, and they just didn't have enough time to fix it before they shipped it out, and so they just shipped it in its current state and hoped that no one could find it. And they said something along like, "God bless the speedrunners who were able to find this so quickly." I mean, that was found like just days after the game came out. And so to Studio MDHR's credit, they did get on it. It may have taken a couple months, but they did get on it. Cutie finishing up that Pain Train fight. A little bit rough, but like I said, the important thing is she did it. So she is on to Hell now, getting ready to go into King Dice. Hopefully close to seeing an end to this race. Hopefully the remainder of the race is very nice for Cutie and treats her well. Yeah, I did find that quote, actually. I was talking about the weapon swap glitch. And Jared said, "I'm happy with how it turned out, but there's a few things that slipped through the cracks. The charged weapon ended up being a little too strong. At the same time, if you watch speedruns, you might see them use a glitch while swapping weapons. That was known, and we hoped we could patch it before people caught on, but bless the gamers, it took them a day or two." So Luigi's record in this 32, 26, and 55 hundredths of a second. So very, very nice race from Luigi. I mean, just insane. Only wound up being about 30 seconds off of record. The first TMR match didn't actually happen. So we've had a few issues, very few, but a few issues nonetheless about people not actually being able to get in contact with their opponents. And so we've had a few drops, a few forfeits, etc. With the TMR race, there was something that happened with his opponent that I'm not entirely sure what it was, nor is it any of my business. Not that I would repeat it anyway. But something happened, and that race wound up not happening. And so it was mutually agreed that between TMR, his opponent, and myself, that we would just give TMR the win for that one, and his opponent would come back and do, keep going at the secondary bracket. So no, if you're looking for the, has not happened yet. He got a bye into the second round because of seeding time, and got a forfeit in the second round to move on to the third. So he has actually not played yet. I believe he's the only one who hasn't actually played anything either. I think everyone else has played at least one match at this point. Let's see, Cutie moving on to the 8-ball, having a very nice king dice.
Here's a real high-class bout. Here goes.
Try and get this done quickly, as we know she can. I think for the most part, these chalks are pretty easy to dodge. You can pretty much stand straight under the 8-ball. And aside from the brown one, so like the brownish-orange one there, you'll be fine staying exactly where you are. Cutie getting a nice kill on the 8-ball. Hopefully moving on to king dice proper. There is a chance that she could get the game over trap, but at this point it's very unlikely. She needs at least a 2 to move on. Oh, I thought she might have accidentally gotten a 1 there. She reacted quick enough not to parry on that die. And I was able to safely get back down to ground and reset for another attempt. To be fair, the start over wouldn't have been a huge deal. You just go to the beginning of the board. The clear spaces do remain, so if you can match your path through, you don't actually have to fight any more bosses. But there is always the potential that you can mess up and have to fight yet more bosses. So very nice. A rank king dice fight. Cutie will be moving on to the last fight of the game. One hell of a time. So now we see the devil. No! Cutie, what are you doing? That's what she said. She messed up. So Cutie did technically take the any percent ending. You do have the option there to either turn over all the contracts you collected to the devil, in which case he kind of goes back on his deal and you now work for him permanently, or you can refuse to turn them over, fight the devil, and save the day. So for this category, you do have to fight the devil. Not quite GG yet, but Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's if you focus on any percent, it's very easy to get in the habit of just hitting yes. That's literally the only difference between any percent and all bosses is just do you fight the devil or not, and it comes down to that single question right there. So if you're in the habit of hitting yes, I imagine it is extremely easy to just fall into that habit and hit yes again. That being said, quickly recognizing that and getting back in to do the fight to properly finish off this race. She's down to 1 health. Well, now she's down to 0 health. I'm going to say it's going to be a very tough fight for her to finish off with 1 health. Certainly doable, but pretty tough. But at least she gets to restart this now. Devil not really cooperating right now, getting the spider head attack. Doesn't give you a lot of time to damage him, and tends to be rather slow as a result. But seems to be doing just fine so far. Did take a little bit of damage there. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, Trojan Dude brings up a good point. I cannot stress enough how stressful this game is to speedrun in general. But to do so under the pressure of being in a race and under the pressure of being restreamed where, people are going to be watching this. I do not, like I said, I do not blame her for making that mistake at all. It happens. It's unfortunate, but it's a very easy recovery. And certainly could happen to just about anyone.
Here's a real high-class bout. Here goes.
So major props to her and everyone in the tournament just for participating and like I said, giving up their time to do this and putting themselves in that position of that pressure to be able to perform like that. Yeah, there's so much pressure. Like, look, we're in hell, okay? We're under the ground, so there's going to be a lot of pressure just from that. Plus, I mean, you got the devil right there. I mean, yeah, that's kind of a big deal. Like, it's a very monumental task to fight the devil. Like, I wouldn't want to do that. So moving on to phase 2 yet again. Interesting fact, on Legacy, I don't know who found it, but on Legacy there is, due to off-screen hitboxes, if you have the charge weapon, you can actually stay on that screen there, get close to the hole but not in it, because fire comes to both sides and kind of pushes you toward the middle. You can stand there and charge shot off the screen and actually kill the devil. It's pretty insane. So you actually never see any of this. So this phase of the devil being pretty tricky. You have less room to maneuver. You still only have 3 platforms instead of 5. You got things coming at you from all sides. And then the last phase, 1 platform, some tears, and some falling poker chips. So, an unfortunate death there, of course. But I'm confident that she will be finishing up very shortly. Let's get some hype in the chat. Let's cheer her on. And, Let's see her beat this thing. Yeah, there you go. Let's go, cutie. You got this. Nice, clean phase 1. Going into phase 2, damageless. See how long she can keep this up. The longer the better, of course. Get some hype. Maybe this will be the run. Maybe. And Cutie did mention that she was going to come in for an interview, so we'll have her get her opinions on some things right after she finishes. There are no more Cuphead races today. The next one is tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Does not get a damage list, but does finish up the devil with a real time of 1 hour and 10 minutes and 36 seconds. Has not technically done on SRL. And there she goes, official 47 seconds. GG Cutie, very, very tough race. Very tough opponent. But you did a very nice job in finishing it. Very nice. So we'll see about getting Cutie in here for a brief interview. Get her thoughts on the race, thoughts about going up against the world record holder. So I can verify, like, I've gone up against myself, and not something to take lightly. Oh, no need for interview? You're not going to? Let me see what she wants to do. So yeah, a little bit of, we have a little. Like I said, tomorrow at 3:30, we have. I forgot already. We have Jason versus Mavellandrone. Wednesday at noon, we have Irving versus Justin. Thursday at 3, it looks like. Potato versus Lindasus. And Friday at 11:30, Mr. Dino versus Caliva. So make sure to give the runners a lot of support. I can't stress enough again that they're doing a very nice job at being able to participate and giving up their time. They hopefully they're having a lot of fun with it. Just watching. And so let's see, a little bit of update on the bracket while we have a moment. Luigi, with this win, is moving on to face the number 8 seed Orange Puddings, while cutieroo drops down to the secondary bracket. She'll be facing the winner of 2C Plus and Cypherical, but I imagine that due to some issues, it'll probably be 2C Plus. So another very, very tough opponent. But again, this is Cuphead. Anything can happen. And so yeah, I don't think there's anything else. Doesn't sound like Cutie wants to do an interview right now. So just again, GG to both runners. Thanks for participating. Thanks for people watching. Thank you guys, makes it all worthwhile. And certainly thanks to Speed Gaming for allowing us to host it. Yeah, I know, I didn't get to ask my important question, but yeah, we'll get them next time, I promise. Alright, I guess with that, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.